Harvard now has about 3/4 of a length of open water on Yale. And again, the ancient story, if you can see your opponent,
it's easier to row from ahead. Yeah. It's just much easier.
Now, if this were Oxford and Cambridge, of course, the leading crew can pull over and get in the water, take the fastest lane, which often means getting directly ahead of their opponent.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because as we've come to realize that the lanes can never be equal in this course, given the current stuff, we have floated the suggestion of should we go to Oxford-Cambridge style, then that doesn't matter the lanes are equal, but it changes the nature of the race considerably and often leads to less close finishes. And we only floated it. Neither coach was very interested.
Well, I'm agnostic on that. I don't know what I would pick. It's an interesting idea, maybe a year trial.
Yeah.
Not sure how that would work with the subbase and other factors, but right now Harvard is on their lane on the west side. They're going to get a little more protection as they get into the last mile. This crosswind is pushing all the crews down to starboard.
The Yale crew is not throwing in the towel here, it should be noted. They are, they've got just a little bit slower base speed, but it's just a slow creep by Harvard. It is not a domination.
It is a slow creep. They took advantage. There was a 1 minute section in there early in the race where they got that length lead and Yale fought hard to keep it to a length for a long time. Now here we go, 8.5 minutes down now. And after that it's been a slow creep.
So Yale just going through the 1.5 mile mark now. And Andy, do you know how, are the lanes picked for each race individually? Is that how, I have to say that I didn't do my homework on this, and we've noticed that Harvard has been in the West Lane 2 times in a row.
Well, if you're talking about the course, if you had a bird's eye view, or we're allowed to have drones here over the U.S. subbase, which we're not allowed to do, by the way, you would see a little slight turn.
There is a
right. That Yale, it's a slight turn to Yale's advantage here. But again, we were talking about the wind, the shelter.
Right,
from,
and we correct for that turn. We're aware of that turn, and we correct for that, and that our starting and finishing angles are identical. So, after a lot of discussion over parallelograms, we agree with the thesis that if your starting and finish lines are the same angle, doesn't matter what the turn is in the middle.
Well, as we discussed geometry, it's still Harvard, the sprints and IRA champion, showing why they were able to accomplish those 2 feats, moving steadily away from Yale. And actually, they're running quite well in this.
They are. They're down at 33.5 now, so they can see their competitor, and
you can hear the rhythm too from either one as far away as we are.
We can hear the rhythm, and what I like to see is very little white water on the blades at the end of the stroke. That they're finishing the stroke properly. Really important is headwind, and then letting the boat run before they come back up.
Well, as they say, they're showing their class right now. And that was an incredible comeback at the IRA. And it always gives your crew an incredible sense of confidence that there's no situation they can't recover from once you accomplish it one time.
Right.
And today, I think Yale was just going to have to be faster. They weren't going to get up on Harvard and cause them to row differently.
I think what we're going to see in the varsity race is the mirror image of the psychologies. We're going to have a Yale crew that rarely is rowed from behind and is really quite strong. And Harvard, there's lots of memories at Harvard varsity boat about last year where they just could not hang with Yale. So if Yale can get out and dominate early, it's going to be very hard for that Harvard crew to feel good about life.
Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit as the 4-miler comes up. Right now, the story here in the JV race for the F. Valentine Chapel Trophy is Harvard. Perhaps completing something that maybe in 2006 this happened, but winning the sprints, winning the IRA, and then winning the Harvard-Yale boat race. And perhaps winning the Henley Royal. Do you know what event this crew is entering?
They're entering in the Temple event, which is a good event for them. They have the Temple at Henley is the 3rd level lanes racing behind the Grand and the ladies' plate, and often Harvard crews can't row that because somebody on the crew has got a U-23 finalist position, but there is nobody on this Harvard JV crew who's been a U-23 athlete.
So what does that mean? Why isn't Harvard going the ladies?
Well, they're not going to ladies because they're looking to try to win, of course, and probably the name Nereus Boat Club, which is a very good Dutch club, which is going in the ladies, and probably scaring them off. Some years ago, Harvard sent their JV, and it was in the ladies, and really, the Cal Varsity just chewed them up and spat them out. You know, there's no competition between a JV and an IRA winning Cal boat.
Well, this is, I think there's a couple of good lightweight crews going over to Henley, too.
Oh, there are, you know, is the Yale lightweights going?
Yes, they are, as are the Columbia lightweights.
All right. Well, you know.
So we firmly believe that Harvard should be brave and race in the ladies' plate.
I understand.
Not go pod hunting down to the temple.
I couldn't agree more with you, and if you convince the stewards of that, I wouldn't be horribly
I'm sure the
upset.
stewards would be delighted to have a Harvard champion of the JV of the IRA.
Well, before we get off the air here, we
Yes.
have to congratulate Andy and his crew. Andy has put together probably the best lightweight program for many years at Yale, and they showed their stuff again this year, and they were gracious and gave Columbia a good race in the IRA, but otherwise they dominated, and it's going to be great. I hope the two of you are on different sides of the room, that you can.
Well, we're
The way the stewards do it is they like to put the Americans all on one side.
Well, it's just the draw, you know. They'll just, hopefully we'll get a seed, and Columbia will too. We'll see what happens. But if we have to get down in these Harvard JV guys, okay, we'll bring it on.
You got to bring them on. You got to bring them on.
And we narrowly missed the buoy. Grant Louie did a great job coming close to the buoy 13 and not smashing it. We're getting more chop now as we return to the race, and Harvard continues to lead.
Harvard is now pretty much got this where they want to, and there will be no records on this course today. So they're rowing to finish properly, not rowing to do anything special. Harvard rowing at 32.5, and Yale at 32. It's a long haul. Now, on the equipment side of life, Andy, I noticed that Yale is using the traditional Concept 2 oars, whereas Harvard has converted all to skinny shaft oars. And, I was involved with Concept 2 and with my daughter in the development of the skinny shaft oars for sculling, so I'm fairly familiar with them. And I guess I can't understand why anybody would not want to have a thinner blade into a headwind. It's
Well, I think Yale is also rowing with skinnies.
Oh, are they? Okay.
Yeah. Certainly today they would make a case for themselves in this kind of headwind.
Yeah.
There's some sort of, it's always 1% faster, I guess, with all new innovations in rowing, but it really is how the bodies move together. You know, you can change the materials, and we've gone from cedar to carbon fiber and all that, but it really is how well the athletes move together. And how consistently they train and what attitude they bring to it. So, and you're seeing that here today. Harvard doing a very good job showing why they won. Yale giving them a hard fight.
I think Yale is
very
pushed
challenging
hard through
conditions.
this. They
Would have been interesting to see this kind of water at the start instead of that
Yes.
rough stuff that
Yeah.
we've seen. I wonder if we'd see a different outcome here, because Yale showed a lot of heart when they fought the IRA champions to basically stand still for a substantial part of that early beginning of the race throughout that crappy water. Hope I can say crappy on the radio, but it really is, it deserves it. It deserves that nomenclature. And
in this last half mile, though, I'd say this is quite rollable. And, you know, with the three race, we talked about underlying roll, and that was when the tide was rolling in. The tide is supposed to be slowing down. It turns at 4:30. And I think because of that, we're seeing a little better
I think Yale's not. This is probably not going to result in a victory for Yale, but Yale is moving back here.
I agree with you. I didn't know whether it was our angle. It's always hard to tell. But Yale hasn't lost anything in this last segment.
I'm sure Harvard's being careful not to make a mistake that could alter the outcome of the race. A crab, an inadvertent mistake, some sort of stoppage of the boat and turning the boat. So they're trying to, as they row past the rock, trying to keep things just moving along, moving the boat upriver.
Both crews at 33.5. Yeah, and I think Yale has brought it back. I think they probably come back.
It's a respectable showing.
Okay, and now we start turning our head to the yellow flag on the finish line boat.
It's 18 minutes right there.
And that's it. 18:05 is an unofficial time.